afternoon, fans. Coming to you live from here from Girard, Ohio. Thank you. Thank you. I know you guys have been standing out there waiting all afternoon. I, uh, I got some things I'd like to talk to you about today. Oh, thank you. Very popular. Uh, One more round for me, please. Well, that's enough of that for now. It's Wednesday, July 16th. We're just getting, like I said, the kinks out. I'd like to start this off by giving you the address. The email address is dragonsden425 at gmail.com. If you ever want to send me a message, tell me a story of hope, a story of survival. I like listening to stories. I will promise to rewrite you back. Uh, this program is not just dedicated to sports, it's dedicated to help people keep moving forward. Positive thinking in life. For too long now, people have just, you know, bottled up their anger, taken it out on the wrong person. Have you ever felt like you take it out on the wrong person when you get mad? You know, those kind of things. I'm gonna tell you stories of my life, stories of survival. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear your victories. There are just victories in life, not just in sports, that make you a winner every day you get out of that bed and get up and move forward. These are victories, fans. I can tell you complete stories. I can talk wrestling, I can talk football, I can talk sports, but I mostly want to get through about life. The story of life. What does winning mean nowadays? What is your definition of a winner? Does a winner just have to be a record, an ability to win? Or is a winner a person that gets up and does the right thing every day, even though it's hard? Gets up, falls down, gets back up, has financial trouble, has marriage trouble, has trouble with the children. Do you give up? No, each way has its own form of victory. And this is what we're going to go through and learn. I've gone through so many things in my life, gotten over death, lost a lot of people I love, but they're still here in my heart, which makes it a victory there. Don't be sad. If you ever need anyone to talk to, even if you don't want to talk on air, I have a phone number. Like I said, I have the email. I have many things lined up that I'll get this all straightened out. Right now, I'm working on these two channels, integrating them both so I can bring the best quality show to you. I'm broadcasting right now because it's like being between work. I would like to see how many people listen to this while they're riding home. I'm broadcasting on YouTube, Dragon's Den 321 on YouTube. I'm also on Riverside Studios Anchors. I will upload these videos to my Facebook page at Daryl Orlando on Facebook in Girard, Ohio. The Dragon Sword is an infamous character. He was created by my brother, Lyndon, but he also was created during a time and period. It was a nickname, a moniker. There were no cell phones. there were no landline. I mean, not computers. I mean, there were just landline phones. Um, and it was a fun time back then because you didn't have, everybody today, no matter where you go, you see someone has a cell phone in their hand. It's like automatic. It's like a bone that we have to have now. It's just immediate. Before, when we one time we had an argument over the Edmund Fitzgerald, and we had to get, my sister-in-law got one of those. You remember those books they used to have, like encyclopedias? Had to get it up and look it through there to find it. There was no computer to look up in 10 seconds and ask it the question in AI or anything like that. I think, in my opinion, we were better off for it because our minds functioned more. We thought more creatively. We thought more of inventing a way to do things. Now we just sit back and ask this thing a question, and we get no, you know, get a quick answer. And I liked it. Maybe you just call me old school. I liked it the way it was. But I'm using these products now to bring it to you, to get your story. I like, like I said, email me at Dragon's Den 425 at gmail.com. It doesn't matter what kind of a story it is, there has to be a victory in it somewhere in your life. Rather than be negative and fall down into these negative, but people draw you down. You'll see many people will call in and say the Dragon Sword's name. I've been so used to many different names: Dragon Tooth, Dragon Bum, Dragon this. But through the years, you've listened to me. That was my way of getting your attention. In the late 90s, early 2000s, they were calling every radio station, including Jim Rome. That's why I bring up Jim Rome. I am the very first person that he banished as far as a moniker goes. Because people couldn't get a hold of me. They were calling radio stations and telling these guys they think that they knew me or something, that I was on the inside. I was just a regular person like you. I'd pick up a landline and I'd say, "Hello, fans. This is the Dragon Sword. And I think things in sports are terrible today. And I want my own radio show. Dragon Sword out." All I did. Went about my business. Next thing I know, my brother says, "Listen to all these remarks. There'd be a fan forum on WBBW." He said, "Listen to all these remarks. They don't want you to have your own show." And then I thought, oh, this is really fun. So I thought, I didn't know the radio station either. Not yet. They'll get into that later on. I started calling in and saying, "Oh, look at all the people I'm getting you. I have sponsors." I'd call and say that. And the attention I was generating for this little radio station was barely 5,000 watts. If you would drive all the way, if you were in Youngstown, you went out to Warren, which is only like 20 miles, if that, 15 miles, you couldn't hear the station no more. However, it was overshadowed by this giant radio station, KBN, what they called at one time, from what I understand, they called it the 50,000 watt blowtorch in the sky. You could hear this station from Cleveland to Columbus. And somehow I accidentally tripped and trickled over to there. It was amazing. And people were calling this was a talk show that had, like, they had, back in the day, it was Dan Rivers, oh, I can't even think, Mangini, there was a bunch of them. And they didn't know who I was, but they could they'd say, we don't know who this guy is, and we don't, But then they also had this guy on there at night. His name was Chamo the Sports Geek. So evidently they started calling and they wanted him, and he didn't know who I was. But I was generating attention for them and they wanted me to call in. I had never had any radio experience in my life, Vance. The only thing I did was knew how to talk sports. So I gave it to you. I gave you, and it was a fun time, man. The people I met, some of the people I distinguished through the years that taught me the radio business, I have extreme gratitude for Larry Michaelis, John Caparanis, Pat Mulrooney, Ron Burb. These are people that gave me a chance and taught me about everything in there. And I mean, I learned to host the boards. I mean, just making a long story short. And I made it into the radio station business. I literally from scratch. I had Mike Trevisano all the way up in Cleveland. I had 850 wanting me to come up there. And the Dragon Sword was flying high. Uh, the only difference was that the Browns were losing then and they're still losing now. So there's some things just never change. Just after I was a success, and I had a weekend show, I was going on Saturday mornings, I'd work during the week. I climbed a telephone pole because I worked for the cable company back then. And I went on my job, and I climbed up a pole way out in Champion, Ohio. And I was changing a tap for a customer. Of course, they didn't know who I was, or I didn't. It was a secret who I was back then. Unfortunately, fans, it was February 6, 1998, the day that changed my entire life. I had 4 children, young children, a wife at home, a brand new house, and I had gone up the pole, was changing the tap. It was muddy and snowy, kind of hard for me to talk about. And all of a sudden I felt the pole shudder. I was approximately 28 feet in the air, 28 to 29 feet. Poles were a half a mile apart, so there's a big droop in the lines. The pole made a shudder, and I knew when I looked it was tipping over. The pole was cracked underground, and I didn't know it when I went up. I immediately fireman slid to try to the bottom, and I landed on the ladder. The spikes went into my back. I broke my collarbone, my elbow, my ankle. I fractured both my knees. Somehow was able to get up and crawl out to the stagger out into the road. And then I fell down into the road, and I remember looking back, and the tree, this little pine tree, barely 4 feet tall, had stopped the transformer from hitting the ground, landed right in it. If it would have hit the ground, fans, that was 50,000 volts. I would have been fried, like gone. Needless to say, the customer opens the door, and I was probably in shock, but I do remember saying, is your picture any better? And this is the status of the world today, fans, the moral there. He said, no, it's worse than ever, and he shut the door and left me. And he seen the pole on the ground, left me laying out there to die. I don't give no addresses because that would upset a lot of you fans, but maybe, I don't know. I would never leave anybody like that. I ended up getting to my truck, and I crawled on the radio, and within 10 minutes the ambulance was there. And Ohio Edison was there, I would say 20 minutes, because Ohio Edison was there within 10 minutes. And the guy that works for Ohio Edison told me that I was 1% survival, and I had survived that. That will to live is what I want to talk to you about, Vance. We'll go even deeper back now. This is part one of my story. But when we get to this part, we're going to go even further back before that. Because this is all positivity that I want to bring to you. There are forces out there. I don't know what they are. I can't claim to know what they are. But I do know that on February 6th, 1998, the Dragon Sword and me should have died. But we didn't. Something had a purpose. And to this day, I'll bring you up to date to there. I've had 17 surgeries since then. My cable career was pretty much over when the new company came in. They didn't want me. They basically forced me to retire at a very early age. I just couldn't do anything that I once did. I once played basketball on Sunday nights. I went to football games and helped broadcast football games, high school games, which I'm going to try to do this fall for all of you. I'm going to bring you my own brand. I'm going to pick out a game and I'm going to broadcast it live from the Dragon's Den. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to try to get a Gerard game. I'm going to try to get a Niles game. I'm going to try to get a Liberty game. If you email me and this is the game that you want to see, we have 10 weeks and we have playoffs too, we're going to do it, fans. This station is built for you. You, the fan. Now, after, like I said, I survived that, was one of the many things of me. And I want to go back to even younger people, the story of survival. Being a young person is not easy in this world. I grew up in a split family. I was a single child. I had 3 brothers and a sister that were all older than me. They lived with their father, and I lived with my father and my mother. I would go over there on weekends and grow up. I had a great brotherly relationship with my older brothers. They all took care of me when I was younger. Once, when I was 5, I don't know if you can see my hand right here. There's a mark on my hand that goes down there. Me and my second to youngest brother, Kevin, were playing wiffle ball in the backyard. And there was a burning barrel back there, and he hit the ball out into the field, and I was 5 or 6 years old, but I still remember it like it happened yesterday. I ran all the way back and picked the thing up, and I seen a rock or a pipe or something laying on the ground, and I picked it up and I threw it, and my hand landed on this rock, and it didn't see the glass that was there, and it was one of them old 32-ounce bottles of Pepsi made out of glass. Went right through my hands, man. And I was right-handed at the time because the I had thrown the rock with my right hand, right? Well, this hand ended up, I don't know how many months. I can't even remember how long it took. Maybe a year or so, because all the tendons were cut because I was so young. I learned to become left-handed. I was once right-handed, but now I was left. I'm going to get back to you later on this broadcast. I'm going to stop it for now.